Some moments don't feel like new beginnings. They feel like standing in the same grief, even though something has already changed. And Scripture doesn't rush past that moment, it stays there with you. I want to show you why the resurrection of Jesus didn't begin with celebration, but with a question. Why are you weeping? This is for you if something has already ended and you're still carrying it. You prayed, you hoped, you believed something would turn out differently, and now you're left standing in what feels like the aftermath. Not loud grief, not dramatic, just quiet, heavy, unresolved. And maybe the hardest part is this: you don't even know what God is doing in it. Scripture doesn't ask you to pretend that's easy. It doesn't skip over it. It shows you someone standing in that exact place. The resurrection didn't begin with recognition. In John 20, Mary Magdalene is at the tomb. She's not expecting a miracle. She's not looking for hope. She's there because something she loved is gone. The stone is rolled away. The tomb is empty. And even then, she's still weeping. That detail matters because the resurrection has already happened. But her experience hasn't caught up to it yet. And then she's asked a question, "Woman, why are you weeping?" Not an explanation. Not "I'm alive," not correction, just a question that stays inside her grief. Scripture doesn't present her as wrong for weeping. It lets her stand there, because sometimes God has already moved and you're still in the moment before you can see it. God doesn't start by explaining, He starts by acknowledging, and what's striking is this. Jesus is standing there, alive, present, right in front of her, and she doesn't recognize Him. She thinks He's the gardener. That's not a small detail. It means this: you can be in the presence of God's answer and still feel like nothing has changed. And instead of correcting her immediately, He lets the moment breathe. He repeats the question, "Why are you weeping? Whom are you seeking?" That's not information. That's attention. He meets her where she is, not where the truth already is. And that changes how you read your own life, because it means God is not impatient with the gap between what He has done and what you're able to feel. If this part feels familiar, if you've ever felt like God was there but you couldn't sense it, pause here for a second. You're not outside of the story. You're inside one Scripture already understands. Recognition didn't come through proof but through being known. Everything shifts in one moment. Jesus says her name, Mary. That's it. No explanation of the resurrection, no breakdown of what just happened, just her name, and suddenly she sees Him. That tells you something Scripture is very careful to show. Recognitions didn't come from understanding what God did, it came from realizing He knew her. In other words, what changed the moment wasn't new information, it was personal recognition. And that matters if you're in a place where you're trying to make sense of what God is doing, and it's not adding up, because Scripture is showing you something deeper. God doesn't always bring clarity first. Sometimes He brings presence first. The resurrection didn't instantly remove grief. This is the part most people read too quickly. The resurrection is the most decisive moment in Scripture, and still its first witness is someone crying, not celebrating, not proclaiming, not even understanding, just weeping. That doesn't weaken the resurrection. It reveals something about how God meets people. He doesn't wait for you to feel better before He comes close. He steps into the exact place where you still feel like something is lost, and He doesn't rush you out of it. What this actually means for you, if you're still carrying something heavy, this moment in Scripture is not distant from you. It's describing something very specific, the space where God has already acted but you haven't fully seen it yet. The space where something is already different, but it still feels the same. And instead of correcting you, God meets you there with a question, not to fix you, not to rush you, but to draw you into something you don't yet recognize. The question was not a delay. It was the beginning, "Why are you weeping?" That question wasn't unnecessary. It was the first step into recognition, because it held space for where she actually was. And that's what Scripture shows you about God. He doesn't bypass your grief to get to the truth. He meets you inside it until you can see. So if you're in a place where something still feels unresolved, where you're still carrying the weight of what's gone, This moment doesn't tell you to stop weeping. It shows you that God is willing to stand there with you, even when you don't recognize Him yet. And maybe the question isn't meant to push you forward. Maybe it's meant to meet you right where you are. Why are you weeping? Not because He doesn't know, but because He's closer than you think in the middle of it.